Let's face it, Marvel Comics has a bad habit of killing off characters. Some deaths were totally expected, but others hit us like a ton of bricks. These deaths still make us feel sad, mad, and miss the characters a lot. In this list, we'll take a look at the 10 most heartbreaking deaths in Marvel history. These deaths have had a lasting impact on fans, and they continue to be mourned to this day. Whether it was the tragic loss of a beloved hero or the shocking demise of a villainous character, these deaths have left an indelible mark on the Marvel Universe. So let's dive in and explore these tragic events that still tug at our heartstrings. Number 10. Quicksilver. When Aaron Taylor Johnson debuted as Pietro Maximoff, Quicksilver, in Avengers Age of Ultron, fans didn't expect his time with the Avengers to be so brief. Despite complications with the character's rights due to the X-Men movies, many were hopeful for a promising future for the Maximoff twins in the MCU. Quicksilver's death in Age of Ultron stands out as one of the most heartbreaking moments in the film, showcasing the ultimate act of selfless heroism and sacrifice. Initially portrayed as a brash and impulsive character with a deep-seated grudge against the Avengers, Pietro evolves throughout the story, especially in his bond with his sister, Wanda. His decision to sacrifice himself to save Hawkeye and a child from Ultron's onslaught marked the culmination of his personal growth, showing that he had truly embraced his role as a hero. The moment is made even more poignant by his final words, "You didn't see that coming," which capture both his humor and the tragedy of his demise. His death not only shocked the audience but also had a profound ripple effect on the other characters, particularly Wanda, who was left devastated by the loss of her twin brother. This adds an emotional depth to her future storylines in the MCU. While Quicksilver's sacrifice surprised both the audience and Hawkeye, who was saved by Pietro's selfless act, the emotional impact lingered. Hawkeye later honored his fallen teammate by naming his baby after him. Just as fans were beginning to root for Quicksilver, his life was tragically cut short, leaving an unforgettable mark on the Avengers narrative and resonating deeply with viewers. Number 9. The original Groot. The original Groot's death was a moment of pure, heartbreaking sacrifice that echoed the depth of his love for his friends. As the dark, cold destruction of Ronan's ship threatened to consume them all, Groot made the ultimate decision, without hesitation. His usual playful demeanor vanished, replaced with the quiet strength of a protector. Wrapping his branches around his companions, Groot whispered his final solemn words. "We are Groot," a powerful acknowledgement that they had become his family. Even as Rocket, his closest friend, begged him not to do it, tears streaming down his face, Groot didn't falter. He understood what needed to be done. In that moment, his actions spoke louder than words. Groot, the gentle giant, who always seemed so innocent, gave his life to save the ones he loved. As the light in his eyes faded, there was a sense of profound loss, a quiet sadness that filled the room. The universe had lost one of its purest souls, and his sacrifice left an aching void in the hearts of his friends, especially Rocket, who cradled the small remnants of his fallen friend, knowing that things would never be the same. Number 8. Vision. If there was one hero everyone expected might not survive Thanos' relentless hunt for the Infinity Stones, it was Vision. Ultimately, this expectation proved true as the Mind Stone was brutally ripped from his head, leading to his permanent death. However, the true heartbreak lies in the death that occurred just moments before this. With Thanos wielding the Time Stone, Vision endures not just one, but 2 devastating deaths in quick succession, each more gut-wrenching than the last. His initial death is delivered by his true love, Wanda Maximoff, in a profoundly emotional scene where she uses her powers to shatter the Mind Stone embedded in Vision's head, despite their tearful goodbyes. This moment is akin to a Shakespearean tragedy, with Wanda and Vision facing an agonizing choice to prevent Thanos from achieving ultimate power, their love making the sacrifice even more poignant. What makes the scene even more devastating is that after Wanda's selfless act, Thanos reverses time with the Time Stone, resurrecting Vision solely to kill him again, this time with even greater cruelty. The futility of Wanda's sacrifice, coupled with the unthinkable brutality of Vision's second death, makes this sequence of events one of the most emotionally devastating in the entire Avengers saga, leaving viewers with a deep sense of loss and despair. Number 7. Charles Xavier. After mutant Professor Charles Xavier develops a debilitating neurological disease, he begins losing his memory and control over his powerful abilities. Fearing that his unchecked powers could harm innocent people, Logan plans to buy a boat to isolate them from society. However, their plans are derailed when they become targets of a corporation that creates and clones mutants. While on the run, Charles tearfully recalls the tragic moment when his powers caused harm, overwhelmed by guilt. In a heartbreaking twist, he unknowingly confesses his remorse to Logan's clone, who then fatally stabs him. Watching the beloved professor be killed by someone who looks like his closest friend is a gut-wrenching scene. As the final emotional blow, Charles's last words to Logan are about the boat they had planned to buy, emphasizing the shattered hopes they once shared. Number 6. Gwen Stacy. Gwen Stacy's death in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is a soul-crushing moment that changes Peter Parker forever. As she falls from the clock tower, the world around him seems to blur, time slowing as panic tightens in his chest. His heart races, his hands trembling as he shoots out a web, a desperate lifeline to save her. Every moment feels eternal, the distance between them a growing chasm that threatens to swallow them both. Gwen's wide, terrified eyes lock with his, silently pleading for the rescue she knows he's trying to give. The web snakes through the air, stretching out in what seems like his final hope. And for a split second, Peter believes he's made it. He feels the connection as the web grabs hold of her, pulling her back from the brink of death. But then, the sickening sound, the unmistakable snap of her neck, shatters that fleeting hope. The sound echoes in his ears like a violent thunderclap, louder than the ticking clock, louder than his own heartbeat. When Peter reaches her, everything falls silent. He pulls her fragile body into his arms, cradling her as though holding her close could somehow undo what's just happened. Her vibrant spirit, the laughter and love that once filled her eyes, is gone, replaced by an empty, lifeless stillness. His voice cracks as he calls her name, pleading for her to wake up, his tears mixing with the cold stillness of her skin. He whispers, desperate for her to hear him, for some sign that this nightmare isn't real. But the weight of the moment crashes down, suffocating him as the reality sets in. He couldn't save her. All the power he possesses, all the strength that makes him Spider-Man, was not enough to keep the person he loved most safe. He made a promise to her, a promise to protect her, and in the end, he failed. In his arms, Gwen lies still, and Peter is left to grapple with a pain that will haunt him forever, a grief that will never truly heal. Number 5. Gamora. Gamora's death in Avengers. Infinity War is a moment of unimaginable heartbreak, filled with betrayal and sorrow. As she stands with Thanos on the edge of the cliffs of Vormir, she feels a twisted sense of triumph, believing he is lost. But when she sees the tear in his eye, her heart sinks. He loves her in his own cruel, warped way. Realizing the horrific truth that she is the sacrifice he needs to claim the Soul Stone, terror floods her. She pleads, fights, but her words fall on deaf ears as Thanos, the only father she's ever known, grips her wrist with devastating resolve. Her scream echoes as he hurls her over the edge, the moment suspended in time as she falls into the endless abyss. Her body crashes onto the cold, jagged rocks below, her once fierce, defiant spirit silenced forever. Thanos looks down, broken in his own twisted grief, but the universe cares nothing for his tears. Gamora, the warrior who fought for life and freedom, is gone, sacrificed by the very man who raised her, leaving a gaping void in the hearts of those who loved her. Number 4. Wolverine. Wolverine's death in Logan is a raw and poignant culmination of a life filled with relentless pain and unyielding struggle. As the years weigh heavily on him, Logan, once the unbreakable warrior, is now a fractured man, his healing powers dwindling, his once steely resolve softened by age and sorrow. In a world that has become bleak and unforgiving, he is reduced to a fragile shadow of his former self, his once mighty claws now a symbol of the burdens he has borne. The final battle is a harrowing testament to his enduring strength, but even he cannot escape the toll of time. In a heart-wrenching moment of quietude amidst the chaos, Logan holds Laura, the young girl he has come to see as a surrogate daughter, in his arms, the love and protection he failed to offer in life now pouring out in his final act of selflessness. As the light fades from his eyes, his face is etched with a profound mixture of relief and regret, his last breaths a stark reminder of the price of his fierce, unrelenting fight for a world he could never fully save. His death is not just the end of a legendary figure, but a profound loss of hope and humanity, leaving a gaping void where once burned the fierce, unyielding spirit of Wolverine. Number 3. Yondu Udonta. Yondu Udonta's death in Guardians of the Galaxy. Volume 2 is a deeply emotional farewell that encapsulates his complex journey of redemption and fatherhood. As he faces his final moments amidst the wreckage of his ship, there's a quiet dignity in his resignation, his tough exterior giving way to a vulnerable, poignant acceptance. Yondu's life, marked by ruthless decisions and a hardened persona, finds its true meaning in his last act of defiance and love. With a broken heart and weary eyes, he makes the ultimate sacrifice, using his remaining strength to save Peter Quill from the clutches of his own father. As the ravaging energy of ego's explosion engulfs him, Yondu's eyes meet Peter's for one last, lingering moment, a silent apology, a final declaration of love. His last words, "He may have been your father, boy, but he wasn't your daddy," resonate with the bittersweet truth of a man who, despite his flaws, found redemption in the love he gave and received. As he succumbs to the cold void of space, Yondu's death is a heartbreaking testament to the pain of lost opportunities and the enduring hope of familial bonds, leaving Peter and the audience with a profound sense of both sorrow and gratitude for the flawed, yet fiercely loyal figure he was. Number 2. Natasha Romanoff. Natasha Romanoff's death in Avengers. Endgame is an emotionally charged and heartrending farewell that epitomizes her journey from a haunted assassin to a heroic savior. As she and Clint Barton arrive at the desolate cliffs of Vormir, the air is thick with their shared sense of impending loss, their breaths visible in the cold, stark atmosphere. Natasha, her face etched with a mix of determination and profound sorrow, knows that she must be the one to sacrifice herself to obtain the Soul Stone, a choice that reflects her acceptance of the heavy price for redemption. The gravity of her decision is mirrored in her final moments with Clint, where their shared history and deep bond are palpably felt, each word and glance laden with the weight of their unspoken love and regret. In their desperate struggle, Natasha's resolve remains unshaken, and with a heart full of unfulfilled dreams and a fierce resolve, she makes the ultimate sacrifice. As she plunges into the abyss, her figure momentarily suspended against the backdrop of the stark, alien landscape, the silence is deafening, broken only by the distant echoes of her sacrifice. Her last moments are marked by a profound sense of peace and purpose, as her act of selflessness and bravery is a poignant testament to her enduring spirit and unwavering commitment to the greater good, leaving a profound void in the hearts of those she leaves behind. Number 1. Tony Stark, Iron Man. Tony Stark's death was more than just the fall of a hero. It was the heartbreaking culmination of a man's lifelong journey from selfishness to sacrifice. When he first donned the Iron Man suit, Tony was a brilliant, arrogant billionaire who believed his mind and wealth could solve anything, but over the years, his heart had expanded in ways he never expected. He fell in love, built a family, and perhaps most importantly, learned to care for the world beyond himself. So when the moment came, when the universe hung in the balance and hope seemed lost, he knew what he had to do. His face, etched with pain and resolve, said it all. With trembling hands, he grasped the Infinity Stones, fully aware that wielding their immense power would cost him everything. The energy coursed through him, ripping him apart from the inside out. But in that instant, Tony wasn't thinking of himself. As he whispered, "I am Iron Man," his voice was steady, filled with both defiance and acceptance. It was the final act of a man who, for all his flaws, had always been ready to step up when the world needed him. His eyes, once so full of life and ambition, softened as the light began to fade from them, and in those last moments, you could almost see his memories flickering behind them, of Pepper, of Peter, of his friends who had become family, and of the world he was about to save. His final breath wasn't just the end of Iron Man. It was the end of Tony Stark, the man who had gone from believing the world revolved around him to giving his life to ensure it would keep turning. The silence that followed was deafening, as if the entire universe held its breath in mourning. His friends gathered around him, their faces streaked with tears, unable to fully grasp that the man who had always found a way out, always found a way to fix things, was gone. Pepper, holding his lifeless hand, whispered through her tears that they would be okay. But the hole Tony left behind was one that would never truly heal. As they wept, it felt like the air itself had become heavier, as if the world had lost a piece of its soul. In that moment, Tony Stark, the man who had once been so full of swagger and confidence, was gone, leaving behind only the quiet, devastating realization that sometimes the greatest act of heroism is the one that costs you everything. Don't miss out on more amazing content. Hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with the latest news, reviews, and discussions in the Marvel Universe.